I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're talking to a terrific author. Her name is Rowena Banks, and she has written a gripping survival story. It is called Surviving the Sierras. It is told through the eyes of 12-year-old Jessica, and this tale of three sisters braving the wilderness after a plane crash will keep you on the edge of your seat. Facing snowstorms, predators, and the threat of starvation, these sisters never lose hope. You will love this story. You'll wonder if it's real. It feels real, that's for sure. We'd like to thank this wonderful author for joining us here today. We thank the team at Bookside Press for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing work. The links are below this interview. Rowena, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Logan. It's so great to be here.
Wonderful to have you on the show. As I said to you before we started rolling and in your introduction, this feels like a real story. Is it loosely based on a real story of something that really happened to somebody? Or tell me about the inspiration behind Surviving the Sierras.
Well, I wrote the story when I would take my children to, they were on the Squaw Valley ski team back in the day. And so I was used to a very, very crazy schedule, and I wasn't used to any idle time. So while I was waiting for them, I started writing. Well, a lot of the times I was just sitting in my car, surrounded by incredible, beautiful mountains, covered in snow. And so my imagination just kind of took over, and it was very easy to put myself in these situations.
Absolutely. And are the characters, Jessica, Crystal, and Sarah, based on your own daughters?
They actually are.
Yeah,
Yeah. So their
amazing.
personalities are are pretty close to the girls. Yeah. So
That's
it,
great. Now,
yeah, it
have
was
you
fun.
shared this story with them? Have you read it with them or to them? Or tell me about that, because they must get
Oh
a kick out
yes.
of that.
Yeah, they know the story inside out. They love the story. I read it to them as I was writing it, and the sequel as well. So yeah, they're very invested in the story, and they see themselves. I actually I pulled out the first three chapters because it was all about their lives and how we lived out in the country, in the Sierras, and they had a horse and a goat and a couple horses, but they would take their horse around the block, which was like a 3 mile block, and get brushed off and everything. So the first three chapters were very much about their lives, and then as I learned about writing and getting into the hook, I learned that you start immediately with action and something that people want to keep reading about. So um I might pull out those three chapters and insert it somewhere else,
Right.
just for keepsake, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's very much about the girls' lives.
Well, you did a great job of ratcheting up the tension, the survival aspects, the wanting to turn the page aspects. So you did a really
Thank you.
nice job. I didn't wasn't aware there was a sequel. Tell us about the sequel.
Oh, the sequel is called Not Again.
Mm.
And the girls and their mother, they fall off a cruise ship. So well, the
Oh,
mother jumps in after them. The girls get pushed, and the mother jumps in after them, and then they survive in a tropical setting. So I went from the Sierras, a mountain,
mm.
freezing cold weather, to more tropical temperatures, and also the resources that were available to them.
So you went from the mountains to the sea, and so it's kind
Yeah.
of a 180-degree turn, although the survival aspect of it is still there, which is great.
Yeah.
Have you envisioned surviving the Sierras as a film?
Yes, yes, I have. Because, I'm sure every writer can actually see their entire story in front of them. So, I see it as a film easily.
And there hasn't been a
Yeah.
good airline disaster movie in a long time. I grew up, there was Airport 75 and Airport 79, and every couple of years there'd be another disaster movie featuring a plane. So I think we're overdue there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a hard it was I had to kind of tiptoe around making it not too graphic for young readers.
Hmm.
So I didn't play up the fact that they were the only survivors. I mean, the kids knew that they were the only survivors, but in the story, I call the plane, which they all survived from, as the I think I called it the storeroom or something like that. So that the mom would trek back and find, see what she could get out of it. But I did try to keep the kids away from that, envisioning that.
On body bags all over the place. If
No, yeah, you definitely don't want them picturing body bags or even bodies or
even
anything,
bodies, yeah, because the body bags
Yeah,
come later. So yeah,
yeah.
without a doubt. Who's your target audience for the book?
It's a juvenile, I would say. It's a young reader through
Hmm.
adult. I
Yeah.
mean, I know I read anything, like even TV. I like PG-13 and up,
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, so it's for everybody.
Hmm.
I'm working on getting it's a trilogy, actually. The
Okay.
third one is hasn't been published yet. I'm working on editing it, but it's called well, right now it's called Runaway Train. I don't know what I'll call it in the future because I think there's a lot of books called Runaway Train. But so um I'm working on getting the whole set out on paperback at one time.
Wonderful.
So
And Runaway Train, or whatever it turns out to be, is about the girls on a train that is run away.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And there's a little twist on this one where there's a bad guy and the girls are, about 3 years older or so. So there's a little bit difference with that.
Is there a message that you hope your readers take away from when reading these books about resilience and courage and beating the odds?
Well, because I'm a mother of three girls, I'm all about strengthening, their self-esteem and their independence and all of that. So it's just about really, it's about faith and trust and about believing in your own abilities and never giving up. So, in the first book, Surviving Sierras, I made sure that the girls walked out. They walked off the mountain by themselves, and then book two, Not Again, they did get rescued because basically there was, you know, it was hard for them to walk out of that situation. But a friendship that Jessica had developed that enabled them to be able to get rescued. And then the the last one, whether it's called Runaway Train or not, I don't know what it's going to be called, but that one, the girls kind of save. There's a bad guy in it, and they kind of save the day. So again, they're empowered.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's great that the girls walk off the mountain by themselves, that they have it within themselves to save themselves. They don't need to be rescued. And I
Yeah,
think that's a great message for women and men, for people in general, that
yeah,
everything
right.
they need, they have within themselves. They
Yeah.
have the tools to do this. That's great. And tell us about making it real. How did you go about adding those elements of realism that it felt like a true story?
Well, again, it was through my imagination and living in the mountains. I spent prior to the foothills, when I was writing this, we had spent another 4 years up in Lake Tahoe on the other side of the lake, and so I have a lot of experience living in the mountains, and bears and mountain lions were out in our area in the foothills. And so in the foothills, my kids never went out without their dog because I knew she would protect them, and she'd be the first, she'd be the sacrifice, I guess. And so it's just through my life experience that I have lived, in the mountain area, and what it's like to be in the snow, what it's like to be cold, and deal with all that, and the concern about what if I ever got stranded. Always making sure my car has those emergency blankets in it and things like that. So my mind works like that.
Oh, your mind worked the right way when you were putting together this book, because it felt very, very real. and very, very true and very, very gripping. The name of the story is Surviving the
Surviving
Sierras.
Sierras. Yeah.
That's right. It's told through the eyes of a 12-year-old, Jessica. And this tale of three sisters braving the wilderness after a plane crash will keep you on the edge of your seat, and you'll be looking forward to this being made into a film because it's a great story. And there are two sequels to it, one about a cruise ship, one about a train, each one featuring the adventures of these three courageous sisters. Rowena, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a
My
pleasure.
pleasure. I enjoyed having you on the show. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.